Kevin Pope, Director of the Nebraska Cooperative Fish and Wildlife Research Unit, which is a collaborative effort among the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Wildlife Management Institute, and the U.S. Geological Survey. I have a unique role of being a federal employee, housed within a university, and being granted full rights and responsibilities of a faculty member. The co-op unit has a three-part mission, that being applied research, graduate education, and technical assistance. In other words, we work to gather scientific knowledge and transfer that knowledge to current and future practitioners within the natural resource management profession. I'm excited that you are considering joining us in this venture. Thank you.
In 2016, more than 100 million Americans, a staggering 40% of the U.S. population 16 years and older, participated in some form of fishing, hunting, or other wildlife-associated recreation, such as birdwatching or outdoor photography. And in doing so, spent an estimated $156 billion on equipment, travel, licenses, and fees. These expenditures represent almost 1% of the nation's gross domestic product. These pastimes aren't just important for the nation's economy. Revenue from the sales of licenses and tags, as well as excise taxes paid by hunters, anglers, and shooters, continue to support vital wildlife and habitat conservation efforts in every state. And on a personal note, a growing body of scientific research supports what so many of us have experienced ourselves, that we are all healthier, happier, and better off in a multitude of ways when we spend time in nature. In Nebraska, the agency charged with managing fish and wildlife is the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. This agency relies on scientific information and scientifically collected data for management actions. Scientists with the Nebraska Cooperative Fish and Wildlife Research Unit and the School of Natural Resources are collaborating with biologists of the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission to provide the needed scientific information and data on fishing throughout the state. This ambitious project has 4 specified goals. All of those goals, though, are based on a general desire to understand the influences of anglers on fish populations and on anglers themselves. This is accomplished by counting anglers and water bodies at random times and interviewing randomly selected anglers after they have completed their day's fishing. Data are collected on paper forms and entered to electronic format, which is the basis of this senior design project.
My name is Keith Hurley. I work for the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission as a fisheries research specialist and data manager. And there are 2 principal components we would like the senior design project to create for us. The first of which is a data entry component to replace the one we're currently using to enter our data from Creel counts and Creel interviews from the field. The second component is also tied to data entry in that we currently do double data entry for field data sheets in order to eliminate typos and fat finger mistakes. And so we also need to create a data reconciliation component that will compare the 2 entries of data, find the mistakes, and allow our clerks to reconcile them and correct them. Now, currently, this is all wrapped into one tool that we created in Microsoft Access as a front end to an SQL database. This was always meant to be kind of a temporary solution, and we created it when we started developing our software package that we're using so that we could quickly iterate through developmental stages and have something functional. But now it's time to step up and replace this component. So moving forward, this may look like one tool. There may be 2 separate tools. We're pretty open to whatever the design team can come up with. For the data entry component, we have 2 different types of data, 2 different data sheets that we need to enter into our system. Relatively simple data and not a lot of it. However, it does get put into about 12 different relational data tables. So the principal requirements for this component would be that we would like it to be operating system and device independent. We work with clerks across the state in a remote environment, so it's really hard to get a hold of the devices. Sometimes they're using personal devices. Sometimes we're limited by our IT sections as to what equipment we can purchase. So we'd like something that can work across a multitude of operating systems and devices, and it needs to accommodate two different trains of data entry. First, the current one that we're using now, that being using a desktop or a laptop computer in an office or a lab environment to enter data from data sheets. And we do this, as I said, with a double data entry type of format. We'd also like to be able to enter data using tablets in the field, using either the same tool or redundant tools with different technologies, either way. And that, of course, would be a single data entry type of environment. For anything that does work in the field, we have to keep in mind that our clerks are usually working in a disconnected environment. They don't have constant network access. So any tool we develop for that type of data entry needs to be able to cache data and push that to our server at a later time. The other component, the data reconciliation component, currently looks like this. We use stored procedures in SQL to actually show our users when there are discrepancies between the two different entries of data, and they can actually go in here and change it and make sure that they match the data sheets they're using. Moving forward, don't really have a big vision of what this could look like. We're excited to see what the senior design team can come up with for a data reconciliation component and what it might offer us moving forward. As far as the requirements technically go, we would prefer to work in Microsoft development environments and languages, largely because after this design project is done, I will be maintaining the system, and these are the languages I work in. And exempting any needs for UI, our current database schema is set, it is fixed, it's full of historical data, so we really aren't looking to change our database schema, just to interact and replace the components and enter data into it. Any backing components must run on a Microsoft stack. That includes a virtual server running IIS, ASP, MVC, as well as SQL Server. In particular, the hardware requirements for the backing of the system should be able to run on a standard UNL virtual Windows server. When it comes to the front end, as I said, we would like things to be as OS independent as possible, because we also need to easily distribute these to user devices for all of our remote-based employees. When it comes to database interactions, those will need to be handled by an API created as part of this project. We do run an SQL server. It sits behind the UNL data center firewalls, so all those interactions need to run on standard HTTP channels. Our preference would be for that data API to be written using ASP.NET Core, particularly in C#. One of the things we are currently lacking in our data entry system is any kind of user level security, and that's one of the changes we'd like to make. So user level security should be used for all these components. To that end, we will provide an identity server 4 implementation that will allow you to authenticate and authorize users. We'll be able to add clients and users to that system by working with me. And finally, all components for this system should use some kind of a standard configuration or settings file mechanism. It is likely that the system will move between environments during its lifetime, so we need an easy way to deploy this if we were to move. So anything that requires, for example, an IP address, any kind of a hard-coded setting, we'd like to be incorporated in an easy-to-change format. And that's pretty much the requirements we have right now. I'd refer you to our project description that we submitted, and I look forward to what this collaboration can produce.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Jasinski. I'm an associate professor of human dimensions in the School of Natural Resources. Just to give you a little background, human dimensions of fish and wildlife refers to the multidisciplinary approach to scientifically describe, predict, understand, and affect human thought and behavior towards fisheries and wildlife resources. You may also see me in another video. I'm also involved in the StreamNet project. I'm here to close out our video on the Angler Survey project, a project that I've been working with for quite a long time. I think this is an excellent opportunity for you to work with some federal and state fish and wildlife agencies. You're going to get a firsthand look at how angler supply data, how it is collected and processed, and ultimately used by state fish and wildlife agencies. In this project, I believe that there's a lot of room for creativity and mental muscle flexing. While we have some technical requirements to fit in with our existing structure that were just described by Keith Hurley, we hope to have one of the teams bring innovation and creativity to the problem of getting data from our remote technicians all across the state of Nebraska to a central database. And at the same time, trying to minimize the propagation of errors, whether that's fat fingering or whatever else it could be. Another benefit is that we on the Angler Survey Project are a group of individuals that are dedicated to educating and working with students. We all teach classes to students, and this includes everything from data analysis classes, data management classes, fisheries sciences, and ecology, as well as serving as mentors for numerous graduate and undergraduate students throughout our careers. We are very excited to work with you. Lastly, I've been now involved with this Angler Survey project for over a decade now. Kevin and Keith have been involved for a few years longer than me. I know that whatever team comes into this will have a lasting impact for years to come on how data in Nebraska's anglers is collected and processed. And with that, thank you.